breaking news, plane crash in Utah Lake. Definitely a tough 4 months. Like, didn't see my son, who's 1 at the time. My wife was like, after 4 months, she just looks at me, she goes, "You're a pretty extraordinary businessman, but you're an average husband and father."
Welcome to the Maverick Entrepreneur Podcast, where business success meets personal purpose. Here we empower entrepreneurs to strike that perfect balance between massive growth and unwavering values. Dive deep into strategies, inspirations, and stories that ensure you set your foundation in faith and don't compromise your family on your ascent to the top. What's everybody? Welcome back to the Maverick Entrepreneur. Today is going to be a bell ringer, so I hope you're ready. If you're not in the mental capacity to handle something big, you may just want to pause it right now. Get to wherever you're going to get. Reframe yourself, because I have my good friend, the one and only Garrett.
And we really are good friends.
Gunderson. But I know, dude.
I mean, that's the thing. And here's the thing. Zoe, your assistant, goes, "How'd you guys meet?" I'm like, "In a bathroom."
What?
We met in a bathroom.
Really? Which bathroom?
We're at this event at a Circle Hotel that we drove by on the way here last night. I pointed it out.
That's right.
And I'm in the urinal. You're in the one next to me. You're like, "Hey, dude, I'm Matt Hubbard."
No. Is that how it started?
You're like, "I know so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so that you know."
Oh, my God.
And I was like, "Cool." And then we talked in the bathroom while we, watched other guys walk by.
That's
and then,
right, dude.
And we were both speaking at that event.
Yeah. That was, I think that was Steve Hawkins.
It's Hoffman's event, yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Do you know what year that was?
That was probably 08 or 09.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because someone asked me how long.
Because you lived in an apartment or a townhome at the time.
Yeah.
You were newlywed at the
Yes.
time. I mean, maybe a couple years,
Yeah.
no kids.
No, I know when that Hoffman was. That was 06. I just framed it. That was 06. I just got married. I lived in that condo. Then I got hooked up with Butcher. He told me that condo was a mess and that I needed to rebuild my life. And that was our journey.
And here we are in this place.
Yeah.
It's like it's non-woke Disneyland here.
That's right. That's right. You know what? It's funny. You got to have the vision for it, and then you walk it out one day. But you remember me when I was in my apartment. Then I had. So this is my third or fourth house, but this is what I box jumped to get here.
I stayed at the casita at the other house.
You did.
Yeah.
You did. So we've been friends a long time. We've done BVI together.
Yeah.
You pole
because
danced,
you invited
and you're gonna
me.
find me the video.
Yeah, dude. I'd never drank a painkiller. First off, I was running an event, and you and I were hanging out. I was speaking at your event.
Yep.
And I got this message, and it's a bunch of our friends are like, "Come to the BVIs." Mm-hmm. They're like, "But we need a captain." I was like, "Well, I'm with Matt. He says he could captain the boat."
Yep.
So I'm like, "Here, you come out. I'll cover you."
Yeah.
And and so I end up leaving my event and having other people present on the final day.
Yep.
We take a red eye. And I'm like,
we pulled the boat up to the airport
and
to
because
get
Carrie's like, "How are we going to find everyone? Do they have phone service out in the water?" I'm like, "I have no idea.
No idea.
No response to anything." And we just walk out on this dirt road. I'm like, "I don't know how we're going to find them." Here comes a dinghy with people just yelling and screaming. I'm like, they found us. It was like perfect timing.
I remember that.
I drank too many painkillers. I'm basically stripping on a stripper pole, and then I get in the water, and there's a current that takes me a mile away from the boat.
Yes.
But I'm so drunk, I'm just thinking it's great, dude. I'm just hanging out on some floaty, and all of a sudden our buddy David comes swimming super hard, and he pops up. I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, "What do you mean, what's up, dude? The other dinghies crashed, and you guys are a mile away from the boat, and I just swam as hard as I could to get you, and you moving away." I was like, "Cool, man, no worries."
That was so funny. You remember the song you danced to?
I'm too sexy.
I'm too sexy. You know what? Those are good, funny memories, because that's how bad. And now look, we're like professionals.
We went to Egypt together.
We did.
And remember, my ADD, I couldn't handle another tour. I'm like, if I see another petroglyph or whatever they're called, and another
pyramid.
We started with the pyramids, which is the climax, and then it just went downhill from there.
Remember our river cruise up the Nile?
I couldn't even go out of the room. There was so much smoke. Everybody's smoking. So you and I went up to do Insanity, the workout, up on top of the boat with the boat smoke. We're like coughing, probably harming ourselves. And
doing Insanity on the top deck.
Yeah. Imagine people down below. We're jumping.
They were looking at these Americans. What are they doing?
Yeah.
That was so funny, man. And
you're just adjusting everyone. you're talking to all these people about Jesus all over Egypt. It was just like great.
I think we made our mark in Egypt, though. I remember I got suckered into buying everything, and Patrick and everybody were making fun of me.
They just hand you stuff.
They hand me stuff, and I was like the sucker of Egypt.
How about the fact that how long after we left did the entire revolution happen?
Yeah, no,
they shut down the internet.
Yep.
You had to get your brother to help get our other friends out.
We were almost stuck there. If we would have been there two more days.
We left a day early because Carrie's like, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
There's something going on here. The energy's off.
Yep.
She's like, let's go home.
Yep.
Because our house got broke into when we were gone.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
She posted a picture of us on a camera.
That was New Year's. What year was that?
New Year's of 2010.
Dang, bro. We had some adventures together.
But again, you didn't have kids yet.
Yeah, 2012 was when that started hopping. Okay. That's when we went to the BVI's, is like in 2012, because my wife was pregnant with Micah.
Yeah.
Wow.
We did Insanity on the boat there, too.
We did. We did Foxy's for New Year's.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So we've had some history together. You have, so I want to give everyone how many books have you written?
10.
10. How many New York Times bestsellers?
1 New York Times bestseller, a couple Wall Street Journal bestsellers, success bestseller because Wall Street Journal lost their list the month I sold enough to hit Wall Street Journal with my newest book, but it's cool because success, it's like Psychology of Money, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I'll Teach You How to Get Rich, and Money Unmasked were the top 4. So that was kind of cool.
That is cool. Just to give everybody watching, like, basically we've known each other a long time. Garrett has been a very successful financial guru, if you will, writing books on money. Really one of my favorite books that really made me I was like, I need to be friends with him, was your Killing Sacred Cows.
That's the first one.
And literally that book I would give to people, because it's amazing when you're up and coming as an entrepreneur, everyone wants to be your financial advisor. And literally how I vetted them, I would give them the book and I said, you read this, let's meet for coffee next week. I would tell you, 9 out of 10 of them were tweaked. And I would watch them, almost the word I would use is manifest. They would get so frustrated. How can you believe this guy? And I said, oh, because this isn't just the narrative you learned in school. He actually is a wealth creator. And there was a term that you used that I know we're going to get into and talk about in a little bit, but it was a scarcity mentality. I'd never heard that. I heard poverty mentality, and I knew I came from that, and I had to break some poverty off. But scarcity mindset, it was more than just about money. It's about everything. Scarcity is lack. And I want to do a deep dive on that, but I don't want to pre-jump it. But that's why I love that book so much. And then you were talking about...
That's the foundation. That's the first chapter. I was like, if you don't get this, the rest of the book doesn't matter.
Oh, it's amazing how offended people get by that. So that was my offense book. And matter of fact,
the more offended they are, the more accurate it is.
Oh.
Like if I say, dude, you're an alien from Mars, that doesn't trigger you.
That's so good.
We only get triggered by things that actually strike the nerve of what we have to learn and have yet to accept.
Dude, you got to say that again for a couple of my friends that need to hear it. Because I trigger a lot of people.
Yeah. When we're triggered, it's because it's something unresolved in ourselves. And so I realize that if I get defensive about something, I'm like, ooh, this is something that's unresolved. And the gift is I'm triggered and I get a chance to look at it. And I just write. I handwrite stuff when that happens. And we talked about this before.
Yeah.
I do a thing called LAF. So it's love, accept, forgive, but I start with forgive. And I always start with, what am I protecting, defending, trying to control, and yet to accept? And I'll write those down.
Let's give an example.
I'm jealous of someone that has a bigger social media following than me.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So I'm like, what am I jealous about?
Okay.
Why am I jealous? Why am I frustrated? Why am I angry? And I'm like, so then I have to look at myself. I'm like, because I'm trying to fill an internal void with an external validation. And so I'm projecting on them. So here's another example. If I'm mad at someone, I'm like, why am I mad at them? And I'm like, ooh, because they're people pleasing and I'm a people pleaser. And I'm now getting it reflected back to me. And seeing the impact of people pleasing is nobody's happy, everybody's unexpressed, and everybody's playing pretend. So that mediation is mediocre. So when I've had those moments where I'm like, hey, let's just get along here, instead of letting people resolve and talk it through, which is the more mature thing to do, and to let them feel their emotions. Don't ignore them, process them. when we hide from them, they boil over. They become cancerous inside of our body. They impact our mind. And if I'm trying to keep homeostasis, that nobody grows.
Yep.
Right. And so I just saw this, in someone in my life where I was like, they want me to play pretend. They want to act like everything's okay, but there's issues. They just don't want to talk about it. But how can I lovingly talk about it, but clearly talk about it? And those are never fun to approach, but they're never as bad as we think when we're in it.
Yeah. It's amazing being a pastor now, how often people need to hear this, but it's like people are triggered every day. So, I mean, my life is really, how do I manage the triggering? But before I was a pastor, I've just been an entrepreneur my whole life. I started as a chiropractor, then multiple businesses and coaching and, masterminds and, the life of the entrepreneur, restaurateur. It is amazing how your book was the catalyst for so many of those conversations.
Nice. And
finally, when I found a wealth money guy that actually knew you and loved the book, I looked at him like, you and I are going to resonate. And he's still a patient. We're still great friends. And it was all based on your book. So it's amazing the conversation since then. I meet every financial advisor at my church. I tell them, if you're going to be in this house, I need you to read this book. And then we can talk about it. It's going to trigger you at some level, but let's just process it and figure out why.
When that book triggers, it's because it's threatening their livelihood.
Yeah.
What they know is a comfortable way to make money is now threatened. And they're faced with this situation where they can either continue doing what they're doing in ignorance, or they can make an adjustment, which has a period of pain. Because before I wrote the book, I had this moment where in 98 and 99, I'm selling mutual funds because the market's just doing so well. And I'm just like, yeah, this always goes up. What did I know? I'm 19 years old. And then in the year 2000, it goes down. And now I'm faced with this situation. I have people saying, well, tell them they're in it for the long haul. Tell them the market's on sale. I'm like, well, it would have been nice to buy after it went on sale, not before.
Yep.
Tell them to dollar cost average. I'm like, I'm not here to teach people to be average, like all these things. So I had to, as a very arrogant young kid, tell people, I don't really know what I'm doing. I looked at mountain charts. I heard the rhetoric. I bought in the sales process, and I pushed you into something that I didn't know enough about. So you should either move to cash and find a different advisor, or you should move to cash and wait for me to figure out something better. Hard to do.
But you did that?
Did it. All my clients but one stayed with me through that process.
Wow.
And they didn't lose money for 3 straight years because it went 2000, 2001, 2002, we're down.
Yep.
We did 41% and 44% in 2001 and 2002.
Yep.
All I did was move people to cash. And if the U.S. market went up by a certain percentage, I moved them internationally before the market closed. And I moved them back to cash the next day, and they just rode the U.S. market. And we were right 80-some% of the time that the international market would follow. And so it was just a huge return when everybody else was losing, and they were in cash the majority of the year. Wow. So then they started making restrictions on how many times you could trade in a retirement plan and all these different factors. So I had to come up with something better, which is where I became an efficiency guy. Yeah. How do I save people tax? How do I save them on interest? How do I save them on non-performing investment fees? How do I save them on insurance by structuring it better? So I kind of geeked out on that.
Yeah, and I love the fact you geeked out on that. What was a pivotal time? Tell everybody, you had a pivotal moment, like, what am I doing? What was that? Because you were balling at the time.
Which time?
Yeah, when the plane.
Oh, yeah. So, look, in 2006, I'm in my 20s. And we were doing really well. We had 3 offices, 4 partners, me and 3 other guys. And we were hosting study groups for financial advisors. We'd created this movement called the Producer Revolution. We were hosting events with thousands of people. We had a radio show. And then 2 of my partners died in a plane crash. I mean, the craziest thing was I was supposed to speak at that event, didn't want to because I felt tired. And Ray, who didn't really ever speak, he wasn't really the speaker of the group. He's like, I'll do it. And Michael, whose event it was, he's like, cool, yeah, Ray can come do it. And then last minute, Les was like, I'm going to go to St. George. It's warmer. So I did the radio show by myself off of a text. He's like, I'm going to head down. I was like, okay. And that night, I fell asleep on the floor. It's kind of like, playing with my kids, always my youngest, dangerous because he might jump on me while I was asleep. But yeah. I fell asleep on the floor of the front room and was woke up to thunderstorm warnings on the TV. You know how they do those, you get that sound and everything. Yeah. And so I turned off the TV, went to bed, and the next morning the phone rang when I was just barely waking up and getting ready to work out. And it was Michael saying, hey man, our company plane left last night and nobody's heard from Ray or Les. And then I turned on the news and breaking news, plane crash in Utah Lake. So 3 people dead. Ray, Les, they were my partners in the pilot plane. Definitely a tough 4 months because we had 42 employees. I didn't know how to counsel them. I wasn't prepared. We're just trying to keep this thing together. I was back on the radio on Monday. That was on a Friday. I was just like, I'll just do whatever it takes. I gained, I think, 25 pounds over that 4 months. I was eating McDonald's Sundays on the way home because I was crashing and just wanted the sugar, and just like didn't see my son, who's 1 at the time, because he was asleep when I left. He was asleep by the time I got home. My wife was like, after 4 months, we're driving in a Bentley, so we got all the views of wealth to my hometown. It's 2 hours away. Carrie's driving because I'm tired. I'm beat. Like, I can't make the simplest decisions. And halfway through the drive, we hadn't said a single thing, and she just looks at me. She goes, "You're a pretty extraordinary businessman, but you're an average husband and father." Damn.
Yeah.
I was speechless. I'm not speechless very often.
No.
Got pretty like emotional and teary-eyed, and I was like looking away, and I was like, all right, I'm coming home. I'm not going to go to the office. I'm like, I'll just get things organized when we get back. I'm going to be at home all December. And so like played with my son, started working out again, hung out with my wife, but they would take naps. I started writing Killing Sacred Cows.
Really?
Yeah. I just like reclaimed my life a bit. I thought it was like the right thing to do was to preserve their legacy, but I lost my life trying to do something for someone else. And this is what a lot of people, I mean, look, dude, Jesus died on the cross so we don't have to sacrifice anymore.
Yeah.
And yet everyone's addicted to sacrifice. Doing things that they aren't meant to do in the name of doing something for someone else at the expense of themselves. And I learned it firsthand and watched the impacts and implications on my family, on my health, on every aspect of my life.
Oh, I have good friends in the middle of that right now. I mean, they are stuck in that scenario right now. Many entrepreneurs I coach are stuck in that scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why as human beings we have to get to a place where we're addicted to yes to everyone else and we say no to the people that we love the most.
Yeah, what is it about the human psyche that we can get stuck there? Is it performance?
Society's lied to us. Society has this checklist. More, bigger, better, faster. Comparison, growth at the expense of self. And so we have the wrong metrics. And the thing is, the belief system is so limited. It comes from scarcity. There's only so much time. So if we don't spend so much, other people are going to get ahead. And that competitive nature means that we have to push our family away. So I call it the productivity conundrum. This is the productivity conundrum.
What book is this in?
It's not in one yet. It's
What?
just like, this is new.
We're getting something not in one of your books, 10 books, and you haven't written this?
So what happens is, when I was dating my wife, like we're in college, I have no worries financially. I'm on a scholarship. I'm doing this internship that's paying me, for a small town. I'm doing well. We could do whatever we want. And so all of a sudden we get married and we move into an apartment, and this like gene kicks in. I'm the provider now. I've got to protect my family. I've got to create a legacy. So I'm going to outwork everybody. So now my wife goes from this really romantic, amazing husband to an obsessive person about getting ahead in business. And so
I think that's what happened to me and my wife.
And here's the thing. I don't think the breadwinners want to tell the other spouse what's going on because they're afraid to be vulnerable because they think it will jeopardize the safety and security of what they want. And we think the only solution is hard work.
Already. Yeah.
But hard work with the wrong philosophy equals limitation and frustration. We believe somehow that money is a linear game that says time and effort equals money, but money doesn't give a shit about effort. It only cares about value.
Yep. Oh.
And so what happens is...
What's another way? What's that mean?
So dollars follow value. So there's people out there that spend less time at work that are billionaires than people that spend more time at work that are 100,000aires.
Yeah.
Because it's not about effort, it's about value. The market rewards value creation. And sometimes the best way to create value is to build a team, to create a vision, to delegate, to offload, to grow your team, not just grow your effort. And so if you can build a team and invest in that team, and it's a vision that's compelling, that they love what they do, 60+% of people are not engaged in the work they do. They do it out of necessity. And so when it's out of necessity, the energy, no matter how much the effort, will never equal what's possible.
You did this iteration, wrote Sacred Cows. It came out, land blasted you. What was the first company you started after that? Because you sold that.
So the first company that I had was called Ingenuity with the 3 other partners.
Okay.
And when the partners died, it was still called Ingenuity. And the problem was it still had this like remnant of the past. And so basically in 2007, or at the December of 2006, when I took the month off to just be at home, I gave all this thought and I was like, it's time to create something new. And so I created something called Freedom Fast Track.
That's right.
And so Freedom Fast Track
That's when I met you.
In January. And it took off in 2007. It was like I'd built up all this equity with
every chiropractor I knew, like, we got to be a part of this Freedom Fast Track.
Yeah, so I built that and it was going really well. And then I just made the mistake of, because it was going well, this is what entrepreneurs make a mistake of. This is going well, I should do more. So I started adding layers and businesses, and bought a property and casualty company, and I created a mortgage company, and so all of a sudden I had so much to manage, and I realized quickly I would never be the best at mortgages, having that just be a peripheral thing. I would never be the best at property and casualty, having that be a peripheral thing.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it was like taking away the focus of Freedom Fast Track. So I decided I'm going to eliminate those companies, because I was kind of given that choice in 2008 by being over leveraged in real estate.
Yeah.
Because I learned from gurus in my 20s, hey, there's all this wealth in real estate. If you're good at real estate, we have to know our investor DNA.
Yeah.
What are we good at and what are we not good at?
Yeah.
Some people are good at real estate, others are not. Some people are good at business, others are not. Some people are good at writing, others are not. It's not about copying what works for other people. It's discovering ourselves and finding the work that looks like work to others but feels like play to us. That's what Naval said.
Yes.
What happens when you find something that looks like work to others but feels like play? Because I believe we win when we play.
Yep.
I was just with my buddy Derek, and he was like, he's like, we're in a fun recession. The world's in a fun recession. They watch the stock market and they have less fun based upon something outside of their control.
Oh.
I have no money in the stock market. I'm in finance.
Yeah.
No money in the stock market, because the stocks I care about are the companies I create that I actually get to be responsible for the value.
Yep.
And I get to see the impact in someone's life.
Yep.
When I had money in the stock market, I don't know what it was doing.
Yeah.
I'm probably supporting pharma that I don't actually agree with.
That's why I pulled my money out. And then people are like, why are you not in the stock? How are you going to retire? I was like, I invest in things I believe in, and I learned that from you.
Yeah. John, you mentioned John, right?
Yeah.
Butcher.
Yeah.
When I met him, 1/70 of his net worth was in the stock market. And 90% of his stress was, it was 2008, it was tanking. And I said, you're brilliant at art. Why are you investing in stocks?
Yeah.
You're brilliant at business. Why are you investing in other people's? Can you imagine Apple being like, we're going to diversify. We're going to put some money in Microsoft. We're going to put some money in.
Yeah.
No, they build it internally.
Yeah.
They don't fund their competitors.
Yeah.
And yet the average person is taught to put money where they know nothing about. And see, if we grow our money, but we don't grow ourselves, that gap is called risk. And so I'm all about, we invest in ourselves, our skills that matter, financial intelligence, emotional intelligence, value creation, skills like sales, like marketing, like writing, like communication, whatever that happens to be that you choose, and you go all in. And as you grow that, then you watch that manifest or materialize in a business to impact more people, to more deeply impact the people that you're actually, congruent with, that you are aligned with. And what happens is you build deep, meaningful relationships so that your money's connected to yourself, not disconnected.
That's so good. So, okay, let's fast forward.
Yeah.
You did Fast Track. You moved on from there. The next one was Wealth Factory, right?
Yeah, so I bought a company in 2014.
Yep.
And when I bought it, we merged because they were brilliant at digital marketing and digital courses, and they had way more reach than I did.
Yeah.
And so I got all this great talent, CMOs and writers and all of this. And so all of a sudden, we're building a lot more reach. And then the people that can't afford.
I saw you on the news one night on some huge. I don't know if it was CNBC.
I did a lot. I did CNBC and Fox, and I didn't do CNN. They invited me, not because of a political reason. It was just that I was in Park City, and I was like, I don't want to go on CNN. I'm having dinner with my wife, but I did ABC had a program called Good Money. I did that 13 times. So
wow.
I did a lot of media back then, and I remember the first time I was on CNBC, it was Squawk on the Street, and they said, hey, what should people do with their money? I'm like, I know that everybody on this program says invest in the stock market. They should cash out, and they should actually put money in something that they're up to, not everybody else is up to. And by the way, that was 2008. The market tanked for 2 more years after that.
Yeah.
So I felt pretty vindicated, but they cut me off. They literally went to break. The guy's eyes got this big.
Yep.
And then Jared Yellen, you know him, he called me. He's like, dude, I'm at the gym. I just watched that guy. What did you do? I'm like, I just told it like I felt.
I was in a mastermind at the time when you did that, and we all were just saying, I think we nicknamed you Brass Balls, man, because you were just so against what everybody was doing.
Yeah, it was crazy because the first media thing I ever did, I was coming out with Killing Sacred Cows. I hired a PR firm, and they're getting me like the dumbest things ever. They're like, oh, you're on Saskatchewan radio. I'm like, where's that? Like, just little reach. And so I flew to New York. I walk in their office and I see all the books of other people they were representing. Susie Orman, Dave Ramsey, David Bach. And I was like, okay, I get it. They think I'm crazy.
Yes.
So I get all the people on the team in the conference room, and I'm giving a passionate speech. And the owner of the company walks in with Killing Sacred Cows in the middle of the meeting, says, sorry to interrupt, throws the book on the table. He goes, but if I would have read this 10 years ago, I'd be worth millions more. And I get on a flight from New York back to Salt Lake. By the time I land, they didn't have Wi-Fi back on the planes then. I get a text that said, can you be on Fox in an hour? And so I went to a little place where they put a feed, and I'm on Neil Cavuto, and I think that he loves the message. That's what they told me.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there listening, and he comes on and he goes, our next guest is launching a full-out assault on 401ks. I was like, assault isn't a word that sounds friendly, right?
Yeah.
And so the first 2 minutes, I'm just smiling. I'm like excited to be on. And then finally I realized, no, man, he's attacking me. And I go, look, I think it's crazy people lock away their money. They don't know when they're going to benefit from it. The government can change the rules at any time. It's riddled with fees. And every time the market goes down, so does their mindset. And then he says some stupid comment like, well, I've always, gambled at the salad bar and it's worked for me. I'm like, I don't even know what he was talking about. And I said, hey, look, if everybody were to just build some liquidity, they'd have peace of mind. They'd have some staying power. If they started to rely on themselves and invest in themselves rather than put it into things they know nothing about, this world would change. But we've been lied to and told we're not smart enough, we're not good enough, we have to trust these Ivy League people. And Matt, would you take your kids to Wall Street daycare? Would you get on Wall Street Airlines? We wouldn't trust that brand with anything, and we trust it with our money?
Yeah.
That makes no sense. I was like, I'm calling it out. I don't care.
What'd he do?
So it was a 4-minute segment, and it was August of 2008. I said, it's not a good time to be in the market. The market tanked and he was in the comments on that video were like, Neil should have listened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny. All right, let's fast forward because we got a lot to cover. By the way, you said you know the owner of this.
Yeah, dude, Rob Wolf. He's such a stud.
Dude, this is one of my favorite new drinks, Stay Salty. By the way, this is not a paid sponsorship, by the way. I'm not Joe Rogan here. But I got to give him a shout out because I said, what do you want to drink? And then you're like, oh, I know that guy. And you're saying that he's a paleo guy.
Yeah, so he wrote The Paleo Solution. And I read that book. I was literally hunting elk. And I read the book because in the middle of the day, you just kind of hang out. And then I came home. I'm hosting an event. And this guy walks up with my book. He goes, will you sign my book? And I'm like, man, this guy looks super familiar. I look down his name tag. It's Rob Wolf. I'm like, dude, I'll sign my book if you'll sign yours. So I brought the one from my house the next day.
Yeah.
And then we just became friends, and he became a client. And
well, you got to tell him.
Amazing dude.
I love the way he thinks because this stuff is brilliant.
And I love his his humor comes through with a lot of the autoresponders.
Hey, the only thing, why can't I buy this in every store? I have to buy it on Amazon. It's so annoying. But it's worth it. I mean, I'll do it. But I would like to be down at the store and just be able to pick me up one. So whatever it takes to do to help that get out there. But anyway, side note. Okay, so you're moving on. Let's go to the next thing.
Yeah.
Wealth Factory. You did your thing. got out of it.
Sold that in 2021.
Yeah. Now, you went on, this is one of my favorite iterations of you. You said, that's it. I want my own comedy on Netflix or Amazon.
Yeah. I was like, I want to get on a streaming service. In 2017, I did my first comedy gig, did an open mic, and I invited 6 rows of friends, so I couldn't back out.
Yep.
And got a few high fives on the way out. And the guy that helped me with my set is like, dude, you should start opening for us. And he's a local guy that was a runner-up on Last Comic Standing. And my high school buddy is they do a comedy musical show.
But you took it serious. You hired a coach.
Yeah, so I hired him to coach me because I was like, hey, anytime you want to do something great, you got to find a co-creator.
Yeah, so let me help some people out here. I remember when you told me this, I said, oh, gosh, you're crazy, but you are funny. So I was like, and your sense of humor is pretty funny. So I go, okay, this could work. How much money have you spent on investing in yourself for learning how to be a comic?
So it's like to get this special done, paying for the special, paying for the coaches, like a guy that was in Pootie Tang with Chris Rock and was one of Chris Rock's writers. I hired him for a year. I hired this guy, Marcus, comedian Marcus, and we worked on stuff. So the whole thing, I've spent about $750,000 in comedy to have that special.
So let me just say,
I paid for it all.
Some people won't invest in themselves.
Yeah.
$2,500 for a program or $5,000 or $20K. I'm thinking to myself, dude, you spent just to be a comic and fulfill this dream. And what was the premise of the whole thing, which is brilliant, by the way?
Called the American Ream.
The American Ream, yep.
Right, and so it's how do we heal our relationship to money? Well, let's laugh about it. So I take what I know about money and I bring it into the comedy world because, dude, I'm not the funniest comedian. I'm the funniest money comedian.
You are the funniest money comedian.
Right? My wife made the mistake of saying I was kind of funny, and I took that as comedic God. That's what I translated it to.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk to my team. I at least want to do the intro ream.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the man, the myth, the legend, and my dad, Garrett Gunderson.
Thank you. Money. Whoever thought 6 inches could be so destructive? No girl I ever dated. To be fair, could be more disappointing. Could be Canadian. Asking Wall Street to handle your finances, it's like asking a stripper if you're handsome. Well, you certainly are while you're paying me. How do I pay you? Do you take Venmo? Do you take Venmo? Oh, we used to call that a tramp stamp. That's a crafty place for a QR code.
There was a standing ovation for Garrett, and he said, we didn't see that for Robin Williams. Like, what? Robin Williams!
In all these years, I've never seen anybody get a standing ovation.
And most people don't even know how to properly save on tax, so they end up tipping the government. It's like tipping a waiter who ate 39.6% of your meal and peed in your soup.
He's an awesome guy, has a real talent for taking money and complicated subjects and making them funny, making them easy to understand, and making them really enjoyable.
It's time to flip the script and turn the American Ream into your real and wonderful dream. It's not about spare change, quick change, short change, or chump change. It's time for change. So, how was it?
I thought it would be longer.
Let's go. Come on. The white boy rapping.
The white boy rapping. I need that link embedded in here.
All right.
I need them to see it.
Yeah,
Okay. Because you guys are not going to actually fully understand. But when you did that and you sent it to me, I literally watched it 10 times in a row. And I said, this is why I love the guy, because whatever he does it with such excellence. This is why you attract wealth. This is why you shun it, because, and I know there's a little bit of someone had to say you're crazy. So then you wanted to double down on it. Cause I was like, this isn't just someone that has a dream. Someone told you couldn't do it and you went all in.
Money. Money talks, money walks. Money is power, but money is the root of all evil. Money's in everything, but money makes the world go round. Money can't buy love, but money matters because time is money. Money doesn't grow on trees, but it takes money to make money. There's easy money, even money, smart money, dumb money, old money, new money, mad money, funny money. There's hush money, loud money, hard money, soft money, short money, long money. You can be on the money, even made of money, because money makes the man. You can roll in the money, rake in the money, run for the money, or take the money and run. You throw money at it, even throw money around, or throw good money after bad. Money's no object when you're a money machine with money to burn, just pouring money down the drain. But for the love of money, hope your money-grubbing hands get their money's worth. More money, more problems. Got my mind on my money and my money on my mind. Get your money for nothing and chicks for free. So show me the money. There's Balboas, euros and francs, kips, krones and kronas, liras, pesos and pounds, reals, rubles and rupees, drams, dinars, and dollars. Ah, the almighty dollar. Top dollar, dollar for dollar. You bet your bottom dollar, but you'll be a day late and a dollar short. We're as phony as a $3 bill, y'all. So roll out your dough and turn those dollars to donuts. Delicious. Say, if you're money hungry, then maybe put your money where your mouth is. Maybe your bread and butter is to bring home the bacon, to cook the books, the cabbage and clams, the biscuits and broccoli, the cake and the cream, the fins and the frog skins, the chicken feed and chicken scratch, or the chips, cheese, cheddar, and Gouda, or some lettuce for a salad, or peanuts for a nice nest egg. That's one tasty meal ticket. Hey, nice assets. You can take that to the bank. You can make bank or bank on it, but don't go broke because flat broke can't bankroll. You see, it's all about the Benjamins, baby. The big ones, the bones, the buckaroos, the big bucks, the buku bucks. You make an honest buck, a quick buck, a fast buck. Feel like $1 million bucks. Get all the bang for your buck, but never pass the buck because the buck stops here. Ka-ching! Seedlings, currency, capital, cash only, cash and carry, petty cash, cold hard cash, even Johnny Cash. You can cash in or cash out. It could be strapped for cash or cash cow, but cash is king because cash rules everything around me. There's ducats, doubloons, and De Niro. Funds, Franklins, and folding stuff. There's greenback, wop, and voila. If you earn enough, then hopefully your hedge fund has hefty Hamiltons because depending on your interest in investments, your IRA might be in the black, in the red, or in the hole. Maybe your Jackson's hit the jackpot, made killer carrots, or your loot is large with legitimate legal tender. Maybe you have that mad means, that mooch or moolah, but if I had a nickel for every time I heard that, well, have two wooden nickels drove together. Not overdue and out of funds, we want ownership and opulence, ooh. Just like pennies from heaven, doobie doobie. A penny for your thoughts just makes you penny wise. A penny saved is a penny earned. Being a penny pincher is penny dreadful. Nah, we're questing for that quality makes queen squeezy. We don't want to strike it rich, be filthy rich, stinking rich. Roll with the racks and resources from rags to riches. Forget White Houses and picket fences. We want to be fat cats, big spenders, high rollers, jet setters, have smackers and Samoans.
Skrilla and sawbucks, stacks and scratch, shekels and shillings, our savings, our stocks, our salary, our treasure, our usury, our valuables. A what of wampum, winning worth, wealth not wages, well off and white collar with wallet width despite our exes yearning yearly for zillions of zeros. Wake up!
This isn't a dream. This is the American Ream. Dude, so my manager at the time was Barry Katz. So Barry managed Chappelle for 8 years, Jon Stewart early on in his career, Louis C.K., owned the Boston Comedy Club where guys like Neil Brennan came up, Nate Bargatze. I mean, like I'm in around these, someone's been around all the great comedians, managed Bill Burr for a while. And so when I did this intro, I just did it on my own. I just paid for the crew to come in. They were a local Utah crew, and I filmed it. And this guy I hired as a consultant, his name's Marty Callner. So Marty created the Comedy Hall of Fame. George Carlin was his best man. He did Robin Williams specials live on Broadway. He won an Emmy with Seinfeld. But we became close friends. And I sent him the video. And he's like, this is the opening of the comedy special for sure. I really filmed it just to do it the night of the special so that when the plan was, originally I was going to be at this club where I did my open mic for the night that we filmed the special.
I was at that one, right?
You were at the filming. You're at the filming.
I was at the filming.
It ended up that we moved to a different location because I got this all-star crew, 8 Emmy winners on my crew that filmed the thing. Wow. And so they're like, look, where you did your open mic, it's awesome. It's just not a great place because of the low ceilings and there's stuff in the way. So it's not going to be a good place to film the special. So we went up the street to this place called the Depot. So originally I thought I'm going to play the video and it would be meta because it shows me walk through the curtains, and I was going to walk through the curtains right then and come out, right? I ended up doing that on the tour, which was cool. But the night of the special, we didn't play it. But Marty was like, dude, we're going to open. If you ever watch the comedy special, I'm telling you for the last time, it's Jerry Seinfeld, and the opening is all these comedic greats, and there's a casket with all his jokes in there. And they're like, can I use this joke? Because he's saying, I'm done with those jokes. It's all new stuff. And it was Marty's idea to do that opening. So Marty's just brilliant, right? Yeah. So he's like, dude, he was the 7th employee at HBO. He created Hard Knocks.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, he's just this brilliant guy. And so he's going to be a consultant for me. We become close enough, and he watches that, and he goes, I'm now your executive producer.
No.
So he comes on board as an executive producer, and he's like, and we send it to Max, we sent it to Netflix, Comedy Central, we sent it and we send them each unique link so we could see if they watch it. Netflix watched it 3 times. The HBO team watched it 6 times. I was kind of close to getting it, but I had no social media following. There was nothing showing me as a comedian, and they kept saying, this opening is so Marty. He wasn't even involved in it, and he defended it. Barry's like, it's too long. We need to cut it. So Barry cuts it when he sends out the videos. Marty finds out, yells at Barry, says, you will put the full thing in there. It's like this big battle. I'm on the phone with him. It's like a screaming match. But it's pretty cool that Marty kind of saw that in me.
Yeah.
Marty edited Justin Timberlake's concerts when they went on Netflix. He edited all of these.
How big is your tour, your comedy tour?
17 cities the first time, and then I did 8 the second time. And the best of all stops was the one where you opened for me. You emceed. Pastor Jurgen crushes it like pro comedy level. Dude, I was just, people were dying. And then that was my favorite of all time because your guys' crowd is insane, right?
Yeah.
They're just used to it's like my favorite place.
Dude, the owner of the Comedy Store, his manager called him and said, get out of bed. Literally, he said, I got out of bed with my girlfriend to come watch the second show. And he says, my team watches comedy every week. They don't call me and wake me up, tell me I need to get out of bed to come. He was watching TV at home. Literally got dressed and came over there just to watch your show because these guys said it was that good.
My comedy reel is hilarious because we film people walking out of that show, and they have the owner, Scott Shore of the Comedy Store La Jolla, saying, I've never seen a standing ovation here. He's like, and I watched Robin Williams, so it's crazy. But I'm funny, but it was because your crowd is just so.
We were bright.
I mean, just so ready. I mean, I walk out after Pastor Jurgen goes on. I'm like, you guys just heard from a pastor, but I'm the one that looks like Jesus. And they were just in from that moment, right? It was like, dude, it was on.
Yeah.
We did 2 shows that night.
Some of you might recognize me from your dreams.
Yeah. I'm like, some of you been coming up and asking if would be in your family portrait. And, you know.
That was so funny, man. That was awesome. So, as we wrap this and talk about it, most people don't understand. I want to give some pain points, and we're going to do a part 2 that you're definitely not, because we want to bring some solutions. But literally, we were just sitting at my kitchen counter, and how much money do you think you just saved me?
I think I probably reduced your taxes 30 or 40% in less than 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think we do like 5 or 6 strategies.
Yeah, 5 or 6 strategies. And I was doing one of the 6, but I wasn't doing it the right way.
As much as you could.
As much as I could. I was thinking to myself, I could probably save 10,000. You're like, no, you could save 140,000.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? But I know this one thing, and we're surrounded by it. I see it in the church. I see it in entrepreneurs. That scarcity mindset, some people would call fear mindset, some poverty mindset. What do you see, and how do you overcome that? Because that's the root, and you got to rebuild the foundation if you're going to do it right. And then in part 2, I want to talk about strategies. I want to talk about, you want to give away some links. We want to talk about some of your books, and we want to give you access to all that. Talk about scarcity, and then we're going to.
Yeah, well, so my most viral video on Instagram is a 60-second video that I can tell if someone's broke within 60 seconds by the words they choose.
I can tell if someone's poor within 60 seconds of what they say. Doesn't matter where they're at, what they're demonstrating. It's exactly the language they use. And I'm not talking about swearing. You could swear. It's what you pay attention to in the conversations you have. Our conversations lead to wealth or lead to poverty. So which conversation do you have?
By the things they say.
Okay.
Right? By the way, a lot of hate on that video.
Really?
Which doesn't bother me at all.
Oh, can we post that video?
Yeah, we'll post it.
We're going to find that video.
My favorite comment on the whole thing is someone says, all the poors are upset. Because, but it went viral because it triggered a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, who are you to judge? I'm like, look, it's fine. It's just that I know that poverty doesn't equal happiness, because poverty is a state of mind. It's a state of being. It's a perspective of lack. It's this perspective of frustration, of jealousy, of all these negative emotions, of guilt, of shame, of all of this dissonance that's coming from them. And I'm like, it's because they say, I can't. It's because they say, I won't. It's because they complain. It's because they blame. And it's rooted in victimhood. And look, I write books not to be a victim. And it was just a few years ago where I realized I was being a victim about something. And my wife was just like, so we need to get over this. And I was like, oh, damn, I'm being such a victim. And as soon as I recognized it was victimhood, I started to create a better future rather than wish the past was different.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just a blind spot for us because our emotions can override our logic. Or it's, circumstantial that we think is evidence for far too long, or that we lose trust in ourselves. But if we lose trust in ourselves, we lose trust in God, is what that really is about. Mm-hmm. And that we're not seeing that the path we're on, even if it's riddled with pain, is a divine path. And that the best ways to go through the pain with love and compassion, because on the other side, we'll find consciousness and connection. But everybody's in their world of hiding from the pain, avoiding the pain. And it's like ignoring the phone call that says, hey, here's your path. I'm trying to adjust you to see what's possible for you, rather than you creating a probable, almost certain, desperate future based upon lack. And the thing is, we're in a world that's addicted to pleasure and dopamine instead of revelation and creation.
I as I heard you talking, I remember that's why you did the money personas. Tell us a little bit about the 4 money personas, and then what you did to help teach that in a real way.
Yeah, in 2008, I'm going through this, financial struggle with being over-leveraged in real estate, still reeling from a little bit from my partner's death. And, my wife and I were starting to argue about money because she's like, why are you investing in all these things anyway?
Yeah.
I'm like, legacy and taking care of the family. And there's this great lie that everyone says sometime in their life. I'm doing it for you.
Oh, shit.
It's a lie every time.
Oh, shoot. I've said it.
What we really are saying is, there's an inner child here that's hurt, and I'm trying to prove that I'm worthy in external validation. Right?
It's like counseling for me.
So I'm like, she calls me out, and I was like, you know what? What I've got to figure out is we have different money personalities, and we don't know how to work together on that, because I look at myself as the gas and her as the brakes, and you don't get very far being foot on each.
Yeah.
And I tried to just find someone else that had created it, because that's what I wanted. I just wanted to find it being created, and I couldn't find it. And I was like, I'm going to have to do a lot of research and figure this out. So it took me years to figure out what money personas were, and to research and to uncover and to discover and, do the data. And I had to have my team help, because I don't love doing data work. It's not exciting to me, but I wanted the result. So finally I figure out the money personas with my co-author of Killing Sacred Cows, Stephen Palmer. We get really, he's geeks out. He's got that autism that just nicked him. So it's like just the perfect amount of depth,
I love it.
So we uncover it. But we only uncovered the scarcity of it. We only uncovered the shadow persona. So I knew these 4 personas that come when people are in isolation, guilt, shame, finite games, preservation, protection. And then I realized that's only part of the story. There's got to be a winning side of that persona. So then it was years figuring out what the winning side were, and understanding that winning comes from co-creation, it comes from delegation, it comes from collaboration. Winning comes from abundance and value creation, and a more infinite game versus a finite game. And so I started to see what that flip was. And then that's when Money Unmasked started to be written. But it took me 7 years to write it, because it was a harder book than any other book I've written, but it was also more rewarding than any other book, because I had so much self-discovery. And it ended up being this huge, long book that I cut massively in half by having just the most brilliant editor to make it where it's about the reader, not about me being smart, right? More about like, how can people discover this and understand that most people are blinded about money, and it's not helping them see value. It's actually moving them away from value. They're chasing it at the expense of themselves. They're lowering their energy because they think they have to sacrifice in order to succeed. And what they're doing is they're either stuck in scarcity of playing to win, only about the future, playing not to lose, holding on to the past. And the reality is, when we're present, we win. And when we love our work, we win. We see the win in the work. And when we design a game worth playing, we've already won. So here's for you. How have we already won? Jesus told us we already won, bro.
Oh.
And yet
You're
everybody...
taking this. I just went from finance to spiritual in one word.
Jesus already said we won.
Yeah, that's right. It is
The
finished.
kingdom of heaven is right here. It's already done.
Yep.
We're all going home. It's just going to take a few people a lot of detours to get there.
Yeah.
And so as soon as we recognize we've already won, we can see perfection in all of the pain and pleasure and lessons along the way. And lessons are only losses if we don't learn. It's wins and lessons.
All right.
Wins and lessons.
Give us, as we wrap part 1,
Yeah.
what are the 4 personas? And then part 2, we're going to get into some stuff, strategies.
So the 4 shadow personas, the miser that plays a game called preservation.
Okay.
Right? They are addicted to holding on to what they've got.
Yep. I know a lot
Scrimp
of those.
save, they so tight they should have diamond. That kind of penny pinch,
Yep.
they got blisters on their fingers, that kind of person.
Yep.
I grew up with a lot of them in my family because they just thought, hey, if you don't have enough money, you could lose your family.
Yep.
Right? The second is the conservative, not a political affiliation, just a financial, fiscal conservative that plays a game called accumulation. Risk averse, always about diversified portfolios, got to save more money, delay gratification, but they never feel like they have enough.
Yep.
The thing about a miser is they might judge you, but they won't tell you. A conservative will definitely scold you. Matt, this is too nice of a home.
Yep.
Matt, you can't afford that car. That's the conservative. Like, they're worried about you, and they'll speak it. The miser's worried about you, but they'll just judge you and not say anything.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Those are playing not to lose. The playing to win personas are the striver. The entrepreneurs are stuck in striver mode, right? All about status. Hey, more, bigger, better. I can sacrifice in order to succeed, but they inevitably burn out. Then there's the high roller. High roller plays a game called opportunity, but they take on too much risk, so it's short-lived. Those are the shadow personas. Isolation, work hard, finite game. Let's flip to the winning personas. The miser becomes a mindful manager if they play the game of co-creation, delegation, collaboration, and value creation. So in that world, the mindful manager is detail-oriented. They're efficient. They're great at improving things. They support others and add more value, which expands. The conservative becomes a planner, stable, thoughtful, and strategic. The striver becomes a creator, artist, inventor, entrepreneur. They lead with value and innovation. The high roller becomes a catalyst, visionary, connector, mover, and shaker. They show us how to win together. See, it's different because it's in the world of value creation rather than preservation. That's the distinction.
That is dropping some wisdom. People are going to have to watch this 2 or 3 times. So, as what's your newest book you wrote?
Money Unmasked. That's where the money personas are.
Okay, Money Unmasked.
And you've seen this theatrical keynote that I've created around it.
You've done that for my mastermind.
For your mastermind, you came out the day after we filmed the comedy special.
Yep.
I was pretty new to it at that time, because I've been working comedy, and it's harder than comedy.
Yeah. It's so good though, man. And hopefully you still do it. Is that videoed?
I have clips. I have clips of it.
You got to put that together for people.
I've thought about it. It's just like to be experienced in person.
I know.
kind of feel like,
I know, but
I don't know if it translates.
I think it translates.
Of course, I end that with a rap too, because
it was such a good
you got to
one.
give the people what they want. A middle-aged white man rapping.
Oh, bro.
Every time I rap, people pull out the phones like, this will be good or bad, but either way, it's video worthy.
Yes, it is. It is. Well, good, man. Well, I appreciate you just uncorking a lot of things. Part 2, we're going to discuss strategies on how to save money, make money, and build wealth. And you've always had this thing that you've taught me a lot about legacy and what that means. And not just with money. We're talking with family, with how you treat your wife, with realizing at one point you were an average, mediocre husband, and then what you did to shift your mindset around that. So I want to talk about all that stuff in part 2. So thank you for joining us for part 1 of the Maverick Entrepreneur interview with the one and only Garrett Gunderson. Stay tuned. Part 2 is happening now.
I am a fighter. Got a dream of